Welcome to the Hypervoice. I'm your host, Stephen Morioka, and today I'm joined by Alex Underhill.
Alola.
And also joining us today is Justin Crubaugh.
Hello.
This is a show about the Video Game Championship Series. Welcome, guys. We are here to talk about a lot of stuff that happened over the last week, and funnily enough, while recording our last episode with Tommy Coleen, a lot of this information was revealed online and posted and such by Pokemon just as we were finishing our last show. So some of these things include the International Challenge February and QR code teams now being available on Pokemon Global Link. So we'll talk a little bit about those, and then we'll get into some other things as well. But first off, why don't we start with the International Challenge February? This is happening at the end of the month, February 24th through 26th, standard 3-day tournament. You can play 15 battles per day. There's a limit on that as usual now for these recent years. And these will award championship points and some Mega Stones. So, you guys excited for this? What are you feeling about this IC February?
Well, I'm pretty excited because it's actually a big way to earn a lot of extra CP outside of any best finish limits, and just trying to compete, get into Worlds, and maybe even day twoing. I'm really excited for the most part, a little, but you still get that online competition. You get those concerns of best of one teams, and I think that first day is going to be quite interesting because I think a lot of people are going to join just for those Mega Stones, so you might get couple of nice early wins of people just coming in and quitting or whatnot. But you always got to battle the conditions, disconnects and things like that. So it's a mixed bag with international challenges like that, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Disconnects being such a hurting factor of it can really be off-putting, and as well as the best of one part. But I do enjoy international. International challenges Yeah, they are international challenges. I get them confused with the new name for nationals, but yeah, they the best of one part of them can be a bit annoying, but I still enjoy them. I've played in pretty much all of them since 2014, just because I do enjoy a weekend ladder kind of competition. That's a really cool concept of it that you don't really get to do anywhere else.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think Japan brings out its best too for that, so you get to see some really cool techs and just seeing what people across the world are into and what kind of things they're looking at, so you get to see a lot of extra cool stuff on that weekend too.
Yes, there are a lot of cool techs, and some people tend to play this a little more seriously than your traditional battle spot team, so I do appreciate seeing that. Are you guys still okay with the battle limit? Do you like 15? Would you have preferred to have more?
Man, I could barely get the 30 in when it was 30, and now it's 45. So it's going to be, I got a lot to do on a weekend usually. So, and it's 15 per day, so I can't just do, if I have a free Saturday, I can't do my Sunday games on Saturday. But 15 is fine for me personally.
What's nice about at least our time zone for us Chicago players is that once 6 p.m. rolls around on Saturday, we can pretty much do all 45, I believe.
Yeah.
Just because, that's basically when Sunday starts for GMT. So that's really nice. And I would say that, I think 45 is right around the number that I want to be doing. I didn't mind 30 either, though. Doing more battles is all right. It gives you more chance to catch up if you're doing poorly, or just, just get more fun in. But I definitely wouldn't want it any higher than that. I'm sure Steven can attest to that, playing in international challenges long before there were limits.
Oh yes, those are great. Just marathoning, playing as much as you possibly can, getting your rating up as high as you possibly can. I remember on the Nugget Bridge forums during the 2012-2013 seasons, when those were happening, people would be reporting how many matches they had played and what their rating was at the time. And at some point you realize, hey, maybe I want to stop here. This should be good enough to get me some points. And it was just absolute craziness. It was really a competition with who could play the most matches and just, skyrocket their rating as high as you can. Now at the limit, there's always still issues with who you're getting matched up with in terms of their rating, but it makes it just slightly more fair for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think it does, just because there are people like me, or even maybe even younger people who have other events on the weekends that they might have to do, school related events and things like that, or to be able to have a good stopping point. And I just remember, even with this 45 game limit last year, I think it was Aaron Zhang who didn't even play the full max, and to win something crazy like 25 and like or something, and just stop there. So you have that option to just win a bunch of games and stop too. So
I do remember that streak of his last year. I was actually one of his opponents. It was he was quite on fire that day. That was pretty funny.
yeah, and what's cool, like I don't know how much you guys know about me. Last season for the Battle Spot ladder, I finished 4th in the U.S. I'm kind of a warrior on the ladders, both Pokemon Showdown and online on the Game Boy. So it sometimes just takes one day to skyrocket your rating, and if you can get hot on that weekend, I think you could get some good serious points. So I'm looking to do that myself. So.
Yeah, and actually, I think you mentioned it earlier about playing specific opponents, or maybe Steven did, but the time of day that you choose to play at can actually be a big factor, just, trying to find the highest rated opponents. And typically you're going to be wanting to play people from Japan, so just because they are normally doing so well in these tournaments. So you want to, time it so that you are playing during the peak playing hours for Japan, and that can be really inconvenient for places around the world. But if you really want to increase your odds of getting championship points from this, then you got to do what you got to do.
Yes, this is a international challenge, so I hope you enjoy the fact that you're going to be challenged in this thing. And again, we mentioned this earlier, but this tournament has no impact on any of your BFLs. It's just, if you can place well enough, pick up some extra points, pick up some extra points. They're always nice. Again, we'll probably get into this later. We'll talk about CP and stuff, but every point counts. I think a lot of us out there have a lot of experience with that, barely missing out on a bunch of things. Justin is an example of that. You want to tell us about last season?
Oh my gosh. So last season was just a season of what ifs for me, right? So last season I missed the stipend to US Nationals by about 5 or 6 points or something like that. And then I missed day 2 Worlds by, I think, 14 points. And, you look back at the season, and that's if I would have just got that one Sacred Fire burn, or somebody didn't get that triple or double protect against me, or I didn't miss against that Moody boost, and then, you're all of a sudden in day 2 Worlds, or you are in, a stipend for Nationals, and that is the season of what if. So every point matters, and I'm taking that quite seriously this year. If you don't know, I don't want to feel that again. Oh gosh. And Steven, of course, he's the one who took a lot of that away from me. So.
Yeah, guilty as charged over here. And aside from Justin's story about missing out on, just day 2 Worlds and national stipends and stuff, a lot of people through the years have missed their invites back when it was like top 40, 16, 12, getting into Worlds versus the championship point bar. A lot of stories to go with that. We can talk about those another time. But, people have missed out on invites by 2 points, 4 points, all sorts of different ranges. But let's move on here to the QR code teams. This was another announcement made last week, just as we finished our last week's show. And on Pokemon Global Link, you can find teams that people have posted. This was something that they had announced on their website months back, before Sun and Moon even came out, that this option would be available to players to use other people's teams that they post online through these QR codes. So, guys, do you want to talk about this a little bit? What kind of impact it could have now that it's finally out? And what have you seen so far with just the use of these codes being available?
Yeah, so I think they're really great for the game. I was actually really excited for that feature when they announced Sun and Moon, and when they announced it on Sun and Moon, just because I think it gives us as more experienced players a chance to just put out teams maybe that we've retired or are not afraid to put out there, so that newer players can get in on the action. And I think that can help grow the game, of course. And the way I see it used most is a lot of YouTubers and streamers, they can just go out there, and instead of having to, reveal their stuff, they can just go out, grab a QR team, and ask, whoever's watching them what they want to see the most. So I think it does help in that aspect. And then you don't have to breed and get all the monster, Pokemon in the game. So I think it's helpful.
I think it's been great, especially like you mentioned, for content creators, just being able to show off all these different teams and ask their fans, what do they want to see? What should we play with today? We've seen lots of fun teams come out of this. Like the most popular one that people have been talking about is that Wailord Pikachu one with Choice Specs Wailord and Mimikyu as well. So yeah, just a really silly team in general there. And I just love the search feature. I've been looking at things that I'm interested in, just checking has somebody made a team with this? If you wanted to look for maybe you wanted to see if there was a team with a Alolan Persian, you just look up Alolan Persian and you see what they order it for you based on the teams that have been the most frequently used, I believe, or just the most battles participated in. And so if you see a popular team with a Alolan Persian that you wanted to try out, the search feature will find it for you, and you can go ahead and just give it a try really easily on BattleSpot instead of having to, maybe try to get the Pokemon together in game or testing it on Pokemon Showdown. It gives you that real feel practice with something that you didn't have to go through all the time and effort to put together.
Yeah, it was nice. It was fun looking through Global Link just to see what people have been posting, what kind of teams are out there. And one of the funnier things I saw already, just posted, as a team title or description, was a new chalk for VGC 2018, which I thought was really funny. It had some of the core members from Chalk team from 2015, and it had some of the new Gen 7 stuff on there, like Coco and Feeny. So I thought that was very funny.
I think that was actually posted by Ken, who we saw this weekend at the past weekend at the mid-season showdown. If you check the username, it's Ken, and when I played him, I'm pretty sure that's how he had it in game.
Yeah, he posted something. He posted something on Twitter about it too.
Yep, exactly. I remember seeing that.
I know Ken. He's a good friend. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, so we all saw Ken this weekend, and that team you're talking about, Steven, was actually posted by Ken.
Okay, cool. Well, I didn't put two and two together, but that's pretty funny nonetheless. And it's cool just searching through that all the teams being uploaded and stuff, just to see what other people are doing, having fun with, and just experimenting both for single battles, for other double battle things such as the doubles ladder aside from championships ladder, stuff for this season, and potentially stuff in the future too. So very cool feature. Hoping a lot of people use this for training and just experimenting, all kinds of different things. A lot of good can come from these QR code teams. I think the other restriction is you have to scan these on the actual Pokemon Global Link website. Is that correct?
Yeah, you have to be logged in while you are scanning them, I believe. Because I'm here on a page right now for a team, and it says if you log into the PGL, you can scan a QR code and rent a QR rental team.
Very nice. So just another way to get people to sign up and register for their website. But I think that's pretty much all I need to say about QR code teams. Check out PGL and try them out. So have fun with those. Another thing that happened over last few days is a rules document update, which after Pokemon Bank, there were some questions and issues regarding certain things like Pokeballs and egg moves and other things that came along with Pokemon Bank. And we got some confirmation of things. Do you, either of you two, want to specify what some of those changes were that we now have clarification on?
Well, a couple off the top of my head would be that they finally clarified that you can use bank Pokeballs, so such as the Johto balls on certain Pokemon that maybe weren't able to be captured in them yet. And Porygon 2 can be, I don't know actually if Porygon can be in a different ball yet, but they did that for a certain number of Pokeballs. They also clarified that non-Alolan forms of Alolan form Pokemon will not be VGC legal, so regular Ninetales or regular Raichu, those will not be legal for the duration of VGC 2017.
Nice. So it is something we've been speculating on over the last few weeks. Once we did get Bank, And, just it's nice to have this clarification, things stated in the rules document. And it's nice that it's been, being updated regularly when we see any issues or things regarding the rules that we need to have updated. I think that's about it. One of the greater things in the rules document is you should always read over those rules for game 2 and 3s in terms of when the time runs out. If you go to sudden death, what happens in that situation? And we'll talk about a sudden death a little bit later.
Yeah.
That happened at our midseason showdown. But I think this will be a good time to switch over to that. And there was the Illinois midseason showdown, which Alex talked about last week that we were attending. And we had about 68 people go to this thing. So it was the size of the Kansas City Regional last year in spring 2016. So the midseason showdown, same size as that regional. Pretty impressive, I thought, for a midseason. We had a top 8 cut, 7 rounds of Swiss. And guys, do you just want to talk about some of your overall impressions, both with, in general, we had a stream, we had commentary from some of our former players and TOs here. We had Matt Swanson, who also goes by Swanner. He joined commentary a little later in the day when he arrived at the venue. And we had Brad Warnicki, who had actually won the midseason showdown last year, and he switched over to commentary for this event. So thank you guys for doing that. We really appreciate it. Thank you to the TOs and staff who ran the event. But Justin, Alex, let's hear about your impressions here.
Man, I thought it was great. So first of all, shout outs to both Brad and Swanner for just doing great. Swanner, he's done it before. I was really taken aback by how natural it was for Brad. I messaged him. I think it helps that he watches a lot of sports, so he just kind of naturally just floated in there. It was really great. He apologized that he said that you, Steven, beat me in Swiss. Of course, that was not the case, but I just wanted to get that corrected here on the record. And then the venue started kind of small because with the juniors and seniors there was well over 70 people. We ran out of actually space I actually started at the second to last table or third to last table in the day, and they didn't have enough room for the last table, so they had to move them. But that actually cleared up pretty quickly once the people were dropping and things like that. So I didn't notice it too much. It was not terribly expensive. The staff was great. That staffing team is always great. They run such a quick and smooth tournament. The stream was not invasive at all. Being as a person that was on it several times, it wasn't invasive to the play, which is also nice as the player. And like I had already said, the commentary was great. So, do you want me to talk about my finishes, or we want to talk about the venues first?
Well, you can go ahead and mention how you finished.
Yeah, so I finished second. I was not able to stop the Ultra Beast invasion, unfortunately, but I did finish second. I feel like I would have finished first had I hit a Muddy Water in game 2, but that's what you get for running Muddy Water. And really it came down to our first set because I actually played Dr. Fidget in Swiss round 6. So it came down to some plays that made me click Muddy Water over Dazzling Gleam in that scenario. So I was really pleased with the finish. The team that I built basically at 1 a.m. the day of actually. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so really quickly, just in case we're not being clear, Dr. Fidget, Sam Harsma, who also runs the Lava Pool podcast, finished in first place. And sorry, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and he did have a team of 4 Ultra Beasts, Tapu Lele, and Mimikyu, which was pretty interesting to see. Just like so many Ultra Beasts on one team, especially Guzzlord. I managed to play him in round 3, and that was, I believe, my only loss in Swiss. Yeah, because I just was not ready for Guzzlord. I think one of the funnier moments of the tournament was when Sam was playing on stream, maybe in finals or maybe in top 4. And we were watching it there with Ken, and Guzzlord came on the screen, and he said, "What Pokemon is that?"
Yeah.
And we were like, "That is Guzzlord." You don't see Guzzlord very often because it is quadruple week 2 fairy, but against the right teams, it can really shine, I guess. And so Guzzlord ended up taking it all, which I thought was really funny. And yeah, it was definitely the reason that Sam was able to take the set against me. But it did go to game 3, like pretty much all of his sets did. I'm sure he'll mention on his podcast, which you guys should definitely check it out. Check out the Lava Pool. But he lost 8 out of 10 of his game 1s in the best of 3 Swiss and Top Cut. And so he was really playing very adaptively over the course of that day. Very few games, because he didn't actually lose a single set. So he had 2 sets where he won 2-0, and then the rest of them he won. Going all the way to game 3, which I'm sure was exhausting.
Yeah, can I just give him a shout out? Because to win 10 matches, a best of 3 sets, like in a row like that, is just crazy to me. That's really difficult to do. So good on him for accomplishing that. It's amazing.
I think what the best thing about it is, for a lot of people out there, Sam's team is very unconventional, and you're kind of looking at it and saying, well, what does this do? How does this all work together? And for anyone else who would try to use it, it would be very, very strange. But this is typical Sam, from what I've seen over all the years. This is the kind of teams he uses, and he really brings stuff and thinks outside of the box in terms of his teams. And again, just a really quick plug for the Lava Pool. They've been running since the summer of 2012, talking about the VGC scene. And Tola Webb is also one of the regulars on the Lava Pool, if not a co-host by this point. He's mentioned on their show before how they really have an audio history of VGC through the years. So you guys should definitely check them out if you haven't listened already or you don't listen yet. Highly recommend it. They just passed their 50th episode, not a while ago, sorry. But definitely check them out. And again, just saying, 4 Ultra Beasts on the one team, like, if Sam starts picking up KOs, he gets all kinds of beast boosts, which was really, really cool. And I don't know how well I would do playing a team like that. Like, that's just typical Sam. It's not for the conventional player, I think.
Yeah, you out of the 4 people, I guess, that we know in the tournament, Sam, and then the 3 of us, I believe you only played Justin, because I know that we didn't end up getting to play, even though I told you I wanted to beat you down at this weekend.
Yeah, I played both of you.
And Sam.
Yeah, and Sam.
So you managed to play all of them. Or all the people mentioned.
Well, I played Sam twice and Steven twice, so that was something interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you played Steven twice because Steven and I had not mentioned our finishes, but Steven did make it into top 8, as did I, both of us losing in the first round, which was exactly what I did at this midseason last year. However, Steven failed to get top 4 again.
You guys know who beat me, right? Justin, right here.
Yeah.
Right in front of us.
Yeah, it's something else to play 6 games against the same team, and the same pilot of that team in one day almost, because by that point, I mean, I don't know what's going through your head, Steven, but we're reaching game 6, and I won the first set, but we're 1-1 in the second set, and this set, moves on to elimination basically. We're going to top 4. I mean, and we played round 4 in the tournament, so like at that point we were both 3-0. If we lose, whatever, we can go on. We had all the pressure in the world in that last game, and it literally just comes down to a bunch of mind games and reads because of how each other was leading and the Pokemon that we were bringing. And there's nothing, there's no more secrets on the team, so we were just mind gaming each other. And I think that in and of itself is just kind of one of the more difficult things you can do in a Pokemon tournament, is play 6 games against the same person in basically a day. So.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you there. There are just a lot of mind games going on there, and just the way the matchups and the team worked out is, I felt like if I made the incorrect call on turn 1, I was going to fall way behind and would have to, it's going to be very difficult to climb out of a hole. And in, both games 2 and 3 in the top 8 match, I felt like that's what happened. I fell in a big hole and I just couldn't catch up and ended up losing. So, congrats on the second place finish. And, why don't we just quickly list off our Pokemon here from our teams? I think Alex has a really interesting one here, but I think so. Sam again had those 4 Ultra Beasts, and then Mimikyu, Lele. Justin, what was on your team?
I had America Bird. I had Braviary, which was my building block for the tournament. Then I had Kartana and Garchomp. And then I had Snorlax. And what else was I running? I don't even remember. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Did you say Arcanine?
Yeah, Arcanine, of course. And Tapu
Fini.
Fini, of course. Yeah, I had the AFK core, which wasn't intentional at all. It just, they go well together, so it happens.
Yeah, that core sometimes just feels like it builds itself when you're team building. Like,
Yeah.
I've got an Arcanine. What goes well with that? Tapu Fini. Oh, well, Kartana, too. Oops.
Yep. Yeah, no, but I'd like to huge shout out to Braviary over the weekend. That was the Pokemon I think I started that team building with, and he kind of did some stuff, with a surprise item too. So I'll give it out. My thought for team building on the tournament is I saw a lot of Braviary spiking in usage in both the Japan meta, Pokemon Showdown, and on online, just on Battle Spot there, and all of them seem to be Z move, Normalium Z with Giga Impact or Flying Z, and I thought people, that's a good Pokemon because Arcanine is the most used Pokemon right now. So I'm like, I'm gonna throw in Braviary, and I'm actually gonna give it a Focus Sash, so then it can give that surprise item that allows me to use the Z move somewhere else, like on Garchomp, and when Tapu Koko Thunderbolts it and doesn't KO it, that can be pretty good to get that tail end up. So shout outs to Braviary.
Yeah, and you also ended up having 2 Z moves on your team, on something else as well. I thought that was really interesting just because not everyone runs 2 Z moves, and so that's just always kind of fun to see because you have to give up, the item support, I guess the utility that you can have with another item, but sometimes having the ability to change it up into best of 3 can really net you the win.
Yeah, definitely a good strategy for best of 3, I think. I'm not usually a proponent for the double Z move, but I think with the way the team flowed with Braviary, kind of discouraging, intimidates unless you're Steven Morioka, who, kind of just doubles, leads Arcanine into it every time.
Yeah, I think I did almost every game. Just Arcanine straight up into it.
5 of the 6 games you definitely did. Game 1 of set 1 you did not, but definitely the last 5 games you did. And it discourages, intimidates. So to have 2 physical Z move users can really mix it up and put on a lot of awkward pressure in a best of 3, I think.
Yeah, I was also running double Z move on my Tapu Koko and Arcanine, so the Fairyum and Firium Z. Very tricky to write on the team sheet. I was very careful with that. It's very dangerous.
Not to get DQ'd. Yeah,
exactly. In addition to those 2, there was just Garchomp, Porygon 2, Araquanid, and Ninetales in the other 4 slots. So, pretty self-explanatory team, not much to explain there. I did have Toxic on both Araquanid and Porygon 2. It's kind of a little overkill. Yeah, not much else to say about that. Otherwise, everything else is pretty standard on there.
And yeah, I guess for my Z move, I was just using 1 Z move, and it was one of my favorite Z moves, which is Normalium Z coming off of Porygon Z. However, I was using Trick Room with it, and so that was something that, while it didn't catch Justin off guard, it caught off a couple of people, and a lot of people expected, the Porygon Z to be using Z conversion, and I ended up going for Trick Room with it, which was just kind of a fun sweeping strategy when you've got Gigalith and Vikavolt in the back to take advantage of those Trick Room turns and kind of just get rid of everything really quickly. Aside that, I had Smeargle to help set up the Trick Room, and then Tapu Koko and Palossand as my last 2 there that were part of a separate mode on the team. And I guess I could talk a little bit about that, but
yes, would you please elaborate on that other alternate mode?
So Smeargle, I originally, earlier in the season, had Spore or Follow Me, maybe Fake Out and Spiky Shield on Smeargle, but I wasn't getting off too many Spores just because of Tapu Fini and Tapu Koko, so I find that it's just kind of useless there, and since Smeargle typically has a Focus Sash, Endeavor can actually be really clutch because if they choose to ignore your Smeargle, or if you get like an invasion boost, suddenly Smeargle is taking everything down to 1 HP. And I was running a Smeargle with a very low HP IV. I couldn't get exactly a perfect one because I wanted to use Moody Smeargle. And so it had like a 4 HP IV. It was just a random Smeargle I caught off the street. I didn't EV it. I didn't do anything to it. I just taught it its moves. But if it uses Endeavor on like a full HP Snorlax, it's going to bring it down to just about half because of Snorlax's high HP stat. And so that can be really fun. And since Smeargle has so many free moves, I also added Water Shuriken. And so Water Shuriken alongside Palossand allows Palossand to set up a lot of stat boosts, activating its own weakness policy, and then also activating the ability Water Compaction, which raises your defense +2 stages for each water move. And Smeargle's not really known for its high-hitting special attack stats, so the Water Shuriken from Smeargle hits 2 to 5 times, and if it hits more than 3 times, I'm at +6 defense, and I've only taken about 5% damage, as well as being at +2 attack and +2 special attack.
Such good synergy, too, with having Endeavor, because then your Smeargle can actually take some KOs. It's kind of cool.
I know, yeah. It was a really fun thing in practice. Unfortunately, did not get to pull it off in the tournament, but I did, in practice, KO a Snorlax. I got down to 1 HP, Endeavored it, and then I ate its berry, and then I Endeavored it again, and then I Water Shurikened it, and I was just really surprised that he let Smeargle have so many free turns, but since people think that without Dark Void, Smeargle's not as much of a threat, they kind of let it sit there, and with Endeavor, it actually makes a difference.
Yeah, and what's cool is, even if you follow me a taunt into it, it can still attack. It's not as useless as the 2016 Smeargle that gets taunted, so it's a good threat. I like it.
Yeah, that was actually another cool part. You mentioned that because often I would lead Smeargle and Porygon Z and try to Trick Room and follow me. And if they chose to go for a taunt and 1 attack, I would have a 1 HP Smeargle now in Trick Room. And since it was a slower Smeargle, I would get off an Endeavor and then a Breakneck Blitz, and they would be sitting at typically 1 Pokemon KO'd and 1 Pokemon at 1 HP.
Aha, and you played... So, really quick story here. You played Ken VGC in the top 8, is that right?
Yes, I did.
So you played Ken, and after a while when we were watching finals, Justin and Sam playing finals, I was talking with Ken, whose real name is spelled Zheyuan, and last name is Huang. I asked him, how do you pronounce your name? And he basically just told me he hates that question because the judges at all the tournaments ask him that all the time. And, it's very understandable why he goes by Ken VGC. But yeah, I think he said the pronunciation was something similar to that, like Shen or something very simple like that.
It was like 1 syllable. Even though his name looks like it's like first name is a little bit long for a first name, it was, I believe, just 1 syllable. Something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, aside from that, and Ken not being asked how to pronounce his first name. Anyway, you played him in top 8. How did that match go, and what kind of issues did you run into?
Yeah, it was not a good match. It was a quick 2-0, and I was like, well, the tournament's over as soon as I saw what happened in Game 1. I looked at his team in Team Preview, and while he did have, I believe, Kartana and Tapu Fini, I still thought that Palossand was my best bet against his team because he had a Gigalith of his own, and my Trick Room sweeping mode involved my own Gigalith and Vikavolt. And Vikavolt's not going to fare too well against his Gigalith, and my own Gigalith was going to be walled by Wide Guard, which a lot of Gigaliths do carry, since I was running Choice Band. And so I was like, well, I will go for the Palossand mode, and I'm just going to have to try to keep it alive until Tapu Koko can possibly psych up the boosts. And turn 1 of Game 1, I led Porygon Z Smeargle, switched Porygon Z, Water Shurikened, and got my boosts. And then turn 2, his Tapu Fini went for Haze. And I knew it was over. And I was like, well, now I was just stuck with a regular sandcastle. It's not a big, beefy sandcastle. It's just a regular old sandy ghast at that point, basically. And I was very sad. I knew that I was like, I'm going to have to try the Trick Room mode in Game 2 to see if I can bring this back, because the Tapu Fini was going to give me so many issues. And in game 2, I did give it a try, but he revealed that his Gigalith did have Wide Guard and Earthquake and Stone Edge. So I'm not sure exactly what his last move was on that, but it was definitely not the most conventional set that I've seen. So bit interesting, but it was definitely enough to beat my team. And it was kind of sad because I felt pretty good going into top 4 because I was going to be playing Justin, and Justin did not have a good matchup against my team. However, me, Justin, and Ken ended up being like rock, paper, scissors because I could not beat Ken and Justin could not beat me, and then Justin easily handled Ken. At least that's what it looked like. Were you? Yeah. Would you say you were ready for Ken?
I would say I destroyed Ken. Sorry, Ken.
But yeah, so yeah, it ended up being quite rock, paper, scissors. We all kind of just 2-0'd each other, and it was all matchup really, which, you know, is kind of a throwback to 2016. But yeah, that was just unfortunate that I had to play him then, because I think I could have gone a little bit further in the tournament had I not run into Hayes.
Yeah, I definitely think I had some more tricks that I didn't reveal to you. I don't think you had known at the time, but I would have still think I needed a little bit of a luck on my side to beat you in that specific tournament. So,
well, you had Kartana. Kartana is the crit master, and so that is definitely going to help break through Palosan's bulky defenses.
1 out of 8 chance to get you, which is better than the normal 1 out of 16. You can't go wrong there.
Especially if you're allowed to get off so many hits, because you did have quite the interesting Kartana. And also, just having Kartana and Tapu Fini gives Palosan trouble, and then you had Snorlax, which kind of deters off the Trick Room mode, so I had to be really careful just trying to figure out what 4 you're going to bring to the game exactly, and how to plan accordingly for it.
Yeah, and I guess I want to speak to that a little bit, just from tournament play's perspective. Like, I started off the tournament at 5-0, and then I lost to Sam, and then I played you, and I felt pretty confident that I didn't need to win to get in the top cut. Obviously, the wise thing to do is try to win to ensure it. And looking at the matchup, I saw that I would need to show a lot of tricks to beat you, and even then, you're still probably in top cut. So I didn't reveal all the tricks and kind of hedged my bets a little bit, and assuming that my 5-0 start would get me into top cut. So I could then theoretically, if I had to play you again, I could then play you more for real. So that's kind of, there's some options in that. I wouldn't recommend that route because normally, you don't want to hedge your bets on resistance, but usually when you start 5-0, you get decent resistance. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt if you do lose that match to me. I am at 6-1 as one of your resistance, and you lost to Sam, who was already undefeated at that point. So you had 2 very strong opponents in your lineup of resistance, I would say. And also, I wanted to comment on how that's a bit of your style, actually. I've noticed at the events that we attend, when you reach the end of the tournament and you know that you're likely to make cut, you kind of choose to either lay off or, maybe just let the set go, or just try to get more information out of your opponent just so that you're more prepared for top cut. Is that something that you regularly do just as a strategy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think tournament play is a lot different than just going out and playing online. In a tournament, you have to be not only just mentally strong, and I think this goes back to my days of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Growing up. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments, they'd be sometimes 10 rounds of Swiss in a day, more aligned to the TCG in Pokemon. So mentally, I feel like I have somewhat of an edge, just being able to last throughout a day and play high competitive best 2 out of 3 matches for a very long time. And then you got the information game, and the information game can be so vital to your success in a tournament. And there are points in a tournament, and I know we had a match in the last format, Alex, where you basically didn't give anything out because you knew everything about my team. It was published several times. I've been running it basically the whole format, so there was no secrets about it, and so you basically gave the forfeit and things like that. If I know my team is well known, I'm gonna play out, and even. If you look at what Sam did in the last round, Sam played Dane, who obviously is a very good player. He's in the top 16 in points right now. He won a regional. He beat me in the finals of Fort Wayne regionals. He top cut worlds last year. Sam's really the smartest thing for him to do was to beat Dane and hope Dane doesn't make cut, because having to face Dane again in cut probably not beneficial for him as a whole. So that in that scenario where he's 7-0, Dane's 6-1, yeah, you play out, you try your hardest. But you have to play smart in a tournament, and you want to gather as much information as you can. You don't want to reveal items or sets. Like when I was playing Sam, I found it interesting that he leaked to me his item on his Mimikyu without having to actually see it, or a move on his Mimikyu. Like he told me he was running Thunder Wave, and I didn't know that or forced him to use it. So you don't want to give that sort of stuff up. But Sam, it didn't matter in the end. He beat me, even though he didn't use either of those, the item or the move ever against me. So you definitely want to be playing for the long haul and thinking for the long haul. And you have to manage risk. I mean, Pokemon is a game of managing risk. And so if you can manage that risk in a tournament setting on top of while you're playing, then you're going to go far, I think.
Yeah, that's excellent. Not only just staying a step ahead within the games themselves, but staying a step ahead in the tournament is very strong advice for any players. But we need to move on, and we really quickly here I mentioned that we were going to talk about a quick sudden death here.
Oh yeah, Steven's sudden death. We can't leave that out.
We had 7 rounds of Swiss at the tournament. In the very last round, I was playing Daniel Thorpe, who also finished in 8th place. He played Sam in the first round of Top Cut, but we went to our 50 minutes in game 2. We had our +3 turns there, and I ended up winning game 2 because I was down in the match, 0-1. Ended up winning that in the second turn of the +3. So then we have to go to sudden death, right? And, it's the thing where you guys play until you get an Pokemon count advantage over your opponent. And that played out. There's a lot of pressure on the line because, I was unsure if I would top cut if I missed or not, because we were both 5-1 at that point. And, ended up winning the very exciting sudden death match. And it was close. It was very stressful to play in. And what added to it is there was a huge crowd surrounding both of us watching it too. So very exciting thing to experience and play in.
Really exciting
I was
to
there
watch.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun watching. I remember turn 1, Steven went for a Z move, and in came a Mimikyu, and Steven managed to bust that disguise with a Z move, which was a bit over the top.
Yes, certainly overkill on my part. Blasting a Z move into the disguise, but it was a safe move from my part, so I took it, and I'm okay with it. But other than that, I experienced my first sudden death, both either watching or playing, and I ended up having to play in it. Very stressful, and it's very exciting to play in. So hopefully you guys get to experience this somewhere down the line, and hopefully we get to see more of these with some other matches too.
Mm-hmm. That's entertaining for sure, and I'm glad I got to watch you because I think I learned something from watching the sudden death too, such as I think you need to be more aggressive in sudden death.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant Steven personally, but no, just in general, just a general lesson.
General sudden death.
Right.
lesson.
Yeah. Not only just being more aggressive, but being conscious of the Pokemon you're bringing out in the back as well. Because I think during the sudden death game, both of us revealed all 4 of our Pokemon. So there's a lot of switching going on.
Yeah, a lot of people think of it as just, lead your 2 most offensive Pokemon and try to take one down right away, but you do have to be conscious of what's in the back because sometimes switching can be your best bet.
Yeah, so very crazy sudden death game. Fortunate enough to win it and make Top Cut. Had no idea if I would make it if I'd lost that, but sudden death, fun experience. Hope you guys get to be a part of it at some point, either during this season or sometime in the future, just in general for everyone out there. And I think now would be a perfect time to switch over. That's enough of us talking about our Illinois midseason showdown. Plenty of that. Hopefully you guys didn't mind that too much, but let's move on to the Australian International. So the one happening in Melbourne, Australian International in March. On Pokemon's website, they have a link to an external website that talks about the International Championship in Australia. And it also appears that we're going to have the same structure as in Europe, which rightfully and fairly so should be the same with the Swiss records carrying over. If you follow these links on there, you can find the schedule for the International, where, they list out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday, it does specifically state there will only be a top 8. Saturday, it looks like 5 rounds of Swiss, depending on attendance. But seems like we're going to have the records carrying over again.
So the tournament structure. The tournament structure is the same as London, which it's good to know going in. I think a lot of people were taken aback in London and didn't know that that's how they were going to do it. When I was watching London and heard that that was the way they were doing it, I was kind of confused. I think it's a little bit of a step back from the Nationals structure and the World structure from last year. The national structure being all X2s make day 2, new records come clean, and then all X2s make top cut. And I think that's just the perfect ideal place for the Pokemon community, just because of the amount of RNG and things that you can't control within the game.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't seem to be fans of records carrying over, and it is kind of a weird way for things to go at these internationals now, because I agree that last year at US Nationals, things worked pretty smoothly, and a lot of people agree that the format of the tournament structure was a really strong pick for that year, and it was one of the best that we've ever seen. So moving away from that and just carrying records over, I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to accomplish. It just it's really confusing to me, especially for like those players that squeak in with 2 losses. They know that they're already like sort of doomed for the next day. They have to have a perfect day 2, and the competition's only getting harder from that point.
Not to mention, if you come in at day 2, your resistance is worse, and so now you're handing your hands to the resistance guys again, which was something I think we need to get away from, of course.
I think one of the things that this does, I guess, help solve is for those people that do reach 7-0 after 7 rounds of Swiss, assuming the tournament reaches 9 rounds. They don't, just like throw in the towel and, like give in, save information, save their energy for the next day. Those final 2 rounds do matter a lot more. And so, for better or for worse, the players are probably going to want to try their hardest in round 8 and 9.
Yeah, I would not be playing the information game at an Intercontinental.
Well, yeah, of course. When your match records will matter from all days that you've played, like you've got to go all out and try to get the best record possible, just moving on to the next day. And a good point you mentioned there is people not having to, continue to try in later rounds if they know they've already advanced to the next stage. And I think that's one of the issues that some of the TOs or the organizers, the TOs who were running this thing probably didn't like about that. How once you go more specifically for day 1, say you go 7-0 in a 9-round tournament in the X2's advanced format, and all they have to do is, just play out these last few rounds, try not to reveal information, and, they're set, no big deal. But now you got to play for that record because it could come into play for the top cut. And the other thing with X2's advancing from day 2 to top cut is people would try to, get that perfect record to try and get the bye, in case your bracket looks funny, which is away from the top 8, which I guess is what they were trying to go for. They want to make sure people are trying their hardest and playing out every round. Other than that, it's still a rough structure to be playing in, just in terms of having to factor in resistance again for a huge and major tournament like this. This makes me scared for what they're planning for Worlds, which at this point I'm gonna guess is gonna be similar to these internationals we're having.
Yeah, Worlds was another structure that I did enjoy because in day 1, when you reached, I believe it was a record of 6 wins, and I think it was because it was only 8 rounds, you were just pulled from the tournament because they knew stuff like that would happen where people would stop playing their hardest in their matches and just kind of throw them to save information or any other thing like that. And so I think I liked the world structure and the national structure of 2016, and I'm not sure why they're moving away from it.
Yeah, I mean, with Worlds, and I guess all we can do is speculate with what's going to happen there. There's no information really on that. They were still 6 months away. But I think we probably talked about this a long time ago. But Alex, you were one of those players who went 6-0 in Worlds. Would say this happened last season where we have this structure of all records carry over to the next day. how would you feel about that? If they didn't announce any of this information, say like what happened in London.
At Worlds in 2016, you're saying that if this were to happen then? Well, just to make sure that, just to correct you, I did go 6-1. I believe I went 5-0 and then lost the one right there, the sixth round. And it was that close. But then I did win, so I didn't have to, take it to that final game. But having records carry over, I still even think I would prefer it then because it just gives such an advantage to those people that reached 6-0 first. And the people that are still making it to day 2 with 2 losses are just so hurt. Like you're barely squeaking it into the second day, and then you're just 1 loss away from being cut. And it just feels like it doesn't matter as much because you have to play so strong with no, like, I guess, safety net to fall in, where the players who made it to 6-0 are basically playing what you would expect of a normal day 2, where you can lose twice and still make it onto the next cut. But I would say that if I were to show up to a tournament like this and it was a surprise factor to me, I would definitely not be happy.
I guess we know how people who went to London felt.
Yeah, it was probably not very fun. But, at least now, this time, if that is the case, do we know that for sure? Is that the case or no?
It's not 100% confirmed, but, it seems like the way things are panning out that this is going to be the structure. And considering Europe had this on a surprise notice, and if all the internationals had a different structure, they would not be happy about that. The European players, they would not be happy about that at all. So I think all the remaining 3 internationals have to follow suit and do the same thing. And it's unfortunate, but we'll get through it. We'll just have to play it out.
At the very least, going forward, people should know, or people should at least come with that in mind when you're going to one of these tournaments, is that the records might carry over. And whether you like it or not is something that you're just going to have to be ready for.
Exactly. And I think knowing that, going into that with that mentality, you just need to go in with the mentality that you should go in with every tournament. Just win. Don't worry about, we can only worry about the things that we can handle, and we can handle winning, right? So don't have to worry about resistance if you just win.
I was just going to say a similar mantra to that, like these, we always talk about like having the 2-loss barrier is good, but winning is also really good. If you go into a tournament just thinking you're going to win every single round no matter what, then that's probably the right mindset.
Exactly.
Yes, so very exciting. The Australian International is a little over 30 days away. Going to be a very exciting tournament. Can't wait to see the stream. I wonder what commentators they'll have for that. Are they going to have a mix of Europe and the North America team? Will they have a brand new team? It'll be exciting to see what they do with that.
Yeah, I think the commentating team is important, so it'll be interesting to see.
So we'll talk about that information when we get closer to that, or when we do have it. I guess one more thing I want to touch on is, so I've already heard Alex say this, but Justin, how do you pronounce the sandcastle Pokemon?
Palossand.
Palossand? So you both of you guys are Palossand. I'm a Palosand guy.
Palosand.
Yes, Palosand in pronunciation. So there are, there's a basis for both of the pronunciations here. You're Palossand, you have a palace of sand, right? And I have Palosand, which is a pail of sand, like a
Palo sand.
Yeah, building your sandcastles on the beach. So I was just kind of curious, like, what you guys thought of this.
Well, honestly, when I looked at the name, I thought it was immediately Palosand, and I didn't even know there was another camp. There was another camp of pronouncing it.
Really?
Yeah, there's so many Pokemon that I think they should be announced one way, but it's completely different. Like Rayquaza and Rayquaza, like those types of things. So.
I'm actually pretty big on the pronunciations. I love to talk about it in person with people, and I've definitely mentioned it on the show before, just because it is something that I do love to talk about. But I actually did not know there was a mix-up on Palosand or Palosand.
Huh. I want to hear that for real now, like the show or something.
The classic one that I always mention, Justin, and I believe I mentioned it on the show before, but not to you, is what's the Pokemon that holds 2 concrete pillars?
Conkeldurr?
Conkeldurr.
No. What'd you say, Justin?
Conkeldurr?
Yeah, Conkeldurr. That's what I say.
Yeah.
What are you guys talking about?
But Steven says Conkeldurr.
Oh, Steven.
See, he says it's more like a respectful, like it's an elder kind of name, and I say it's more like it's a guy with a really small brain. Durr, Conkle Durr.
Conkle Smash.
Exactly. Like that little thing on top of his head, that's supposed to be where his brain is, I think.
It's supposed to be a top knot, and he's carrying 2 canes, and he's Conkeldurr, who you should respect as a fighting type, because I really like Conkeldurr as a Pokemon as well.
Well, we need to check the Sun and Moon Pokedex, because it might call that thing its brain, because it got some weird Pokedex entries in Sun and Moon.
That's very true. Sun and Moon is some of my favorite Pokedex entries.
I would agree.
All right, then. Well, glad to settle that and hear your thoughts on the Sandcastle Pokemon. You know, very cool design, a lot of interesting stories about it. We all know this, but...
Oh yeah, speaking of Pokedex entries, very good one for it too.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah, guys, definitely look that up if you don't know it already. But I think that will do it for our show. And thank you to Justin for being on. We really appreciate it, having you on here.
I appreciate being here. It was fun.
And lastly, we are on iTunes. You guys can find our show there and download our stuff from that iTunes. And we have an email address, vgchypervoice@gmail.com. And you can find all of us on Twitter. Justin, where can people find you?
Magikarp VGC.
All right. And Alex, what about you?
At Lexicon VGC. And I'm already following you, Steven, but where can the rest of the people follow you?
I am at Super Morioka. Thank you guys for listening to the Hyper Voice. We hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Alola.
It is a goodbye.